Welcome again to Deep Dive on your channel, Book Echoes.
We have an incredible set of sources for this deep dive. They're drawn from the work of organizational psychologist Adam Grant.
Specifically from his book, Think Again, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know.
And it fundamentally challenges how we think about intelligence itself.
That's so true. I mean, for generations, we've defined intelligence as the ability to think and learn, right? It's just acquire knowledge.
Grant just flips that whole script.
He does. He argues that in today's world, which is so turbulent and constantly changing, the most critical skill isn't knowing.
It's rethinking and unlearning.
Exactly. So our mission today is to dig into why we resist questioning our own beliefs and, how we can adopt this mental framework that's really necessary for growth.
And that framework is, it's basically non-negotiable now. The speed of change is it's mind-boggling.
Oh, yeah.
Take medicine, for example. In 1950, medical knowledge took about 50 years to double.
50 years, wow.
By 2010, it was doubling in 3.5 years.
That's an incredible acceleration.
It is. So if the facts in a field like that are shifting so fast, we have to question our own opinions more readily. We can't let our thinking get obsolete.
We certainly can. And before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and activate the notification bell to receive all new content. Your support really does encourage us to continue.
Okay, so to illustrate the price of clinging to what, we can start with a real tragedy. The Man Gulch Fire in 1949.
Right, this was a group of elite firefighters, smoke jumpers. They parachute into a blaze that seems pretty routine at first.
But it wasn't. The conditions just exploded, and the fire roared up this steep slope right at them. They were trapped.
And Foreman, Wagner Dodge, he just yells for his crew to run.
And 12 of them died. It's a horrible story. But when investigators looked at what happened, they found this heartbreaking detail.
What was that?
Every one of the men who died was still clutching their tools, their heavy 20-pound packs with axes and shovels.
So their training, their instinct to hold on to their equipment, actually worked against them.
It did. Investigators figured that just dropping that gear would have made them 15 to 20% faster.
Which might have been enough to save them.
It very well could have been. Their well-learned responses became fatal.
But Dodge, the foreman,
Yeah.
he survived.
Yeah.
And how he did it is, it's just a masterclass in rethinking on the fly.
It is. While everyone else ran, he stopped. He did something completely counterintuitive.
He lit another fire, an escape fire.
Exactly. He burned the grass ahead of him, creating a patch of scorched earth with no fuel left. Then he just lay down in the ashes.
He survived because he had the mental fitness to just override everything he'd been trained to do. He improvised.
He ran an experiment. And it's that kind of mental block that we face every day, even when the stakes are much, much lower.
Which brings us to this idea of the first instinct fallacy.
Yes, we've all heard that advice. Stick with your first answer. Don't second-guess yourself.
It sounds like solid advice, but the data tells a totally different story, doesn't it?
It really does. A big review of, I think it was 33 different studies, found that the majority of times students change an answer on a test.
They change it from wrong to right.
They change it from wrong to right. The problem isn't that second-guessing is bad. The problem is we just have this deep reluctance to rethink it all.
And that applies to more than just exams. We'll update our phones, we'll renovate our kitchens.
Oh, absolutely. But when it comes to our knowledge, our opinions, we do what psychologists call seizing and freezing.
Seizing and freezing, I like that.
We just grab onto an idea and we refuse to let it go. It's comfortable. People will laugh at someone still using Windows 95.
But they'll cling to an opinion they formed in 1995.
Precisely. The discomfort of being wrong feels too high.
So if that's what drives us, how do we end up defending these frozen ideas? This is where Grant brings in Tetlock's framework of the 4 mindsets.
Right. And we tend to default to 3 of them that actually stop us from thinking clearly. The first is preacher mode.
Okay, so preacher mode is when our core beliefs are threatened.
Exactly. We start delivering sermons to protect them. We feel like we have the truth, and our job is to convert everyone else.
And then there's prosecutor mode.
That's when we see a flaw in someone else's argument. All our energy goes into proving them wrong, not finding the truth.
And the last of that group is politician mode.
Which is all about approval. We're just campaigning for validation from an audience trying to win them over.
And we can cycle through all 3 of these without ever actually questioning ourselves. The book gives this just painful example of Stephen Greenspan.
An expert on gullibility. I mean, you can't make this up. An expert on being tricked who lost his savings in the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme.
And you can see all the modes at play.
You really can. First, his sister was in preacher mode, just singing Madoff's praises. Too good to be true returns.
Then a skeptical friend raised some doubts, and Greenspan went straight into prosecutor mode. He accused his friend of being cynical.
And then the final piece. Politician mode. The financial advisor was a family friend he liked.
So he wanted that approval. He wanted to keep the relationship smooth.
And that social pressure just completely overrode his analytical judgment.
So what should he have been doing instead?
He should have used a completely different tool set, the one Grant champions, scientist mode.
Okay, so the scientist isn't about winning or being right. It's about searching for the truth.
Exactly. It's about running experiments, testing your own hypotheses. And this is the key. Updating your views when new data comes in.
That requires a few key ingredients, right? Humility, doubt.
And curiosity. Humility is knowing you have limits. Doubt is being interested in what those limits are. And curiosity is what drives you to find out.
It's a cycle then. Humility leads to doubt.
Which sparks curiosity, which leads to discovery.
Which then reinforces your humility because you see how much more there is to learn.
That's the rethinking cycle. But if you fall out of scientist mode, you get into the opposite, the overconfidence cycle. Pride leads to conviction. You become a preacher.
Then a prosecutor. Looking for evidence that proves you're right. That's confirmation bias.
And desirability bias, seeing what you want to see. It all leads to just intellectual arrogance.
The perfect breeding ground for the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Ah, the armchair quarterback syndrome, where we're most confident when we're least competent.
The stats on this are amazing. People who scored the lowest on tests of, like, logic and grammar.
They thought they did better than 62% of people.
But in reality,
They only beat 12%. The very skills you need to be good at something are the skills you need to recognize you're not good at it.
So the first rule, the Dunning-Kruger Club, is you don't know you're a member of the Dunning-Kruger Club.
That's a great way to put it. So the antidote to all of this is something Grant calls confident humility.
Which sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Confident humility.
It does, but it's the sweet spot. It's having confidence in your ability to learn while having the humility to admit your current knowledge might be wrong or incomplete.
So it's okay to feel a bit like an imposter sometimes.
It's more than okay. It can be an advantage. Hala Tómasdóttir, who ran for president in Iceland, said her imposter syndrome kept her on her toes.
Because if you feel like an imposter, you're not going to assume you have all the answers. You're going to keep learning.
You stay curious. You stay humble. The arrogant person thinks they've already won the game and stops trying.
Let's bring this back to a real-world example. The book uses the clash between BlackBerry and the iPhone. It's a perfect case study.
It really is. Mike Lazaridis, the CEO of BlackBerry, was brilliant. His company was, for a time, the fastest growing on the planet.
But when the iPhone launched in 2007, he couldn't rethink. He went straight into preacher mode.
He was completely convinced that people only wanted phones for work emails and calls. He famously scoffed at the iPhone, saying, "They've put a Mac in this thing."
As if that was a bad thing.
Right, and he refused to even test the idea that people might want apps or a good web browser because he was certain it would kill the battery. His conviction blinded him.
And we'd all know how that story ended. Now, compare that to Steve Jobs.
Even Jobs wasn't immune. In 2004, when the idea of a phone-iPod hybrid came up, he was a full-on prosecutor.
He called it the dumbest idea he'd ever heard.
Because he'd had bad experiences with phone software in the past, but his team managed to pull him back.
Back into scientist mode.
Yes, they got him to focus on the real problem. Create a better operating system first. Test that hypothesis.
And once they did that, he pivoted. In 2007, he didn't say Apple was making a phone. He said they were going to reinvent the phone.
That shift in mindset, even though it came late, made all the difference. The conclusion is pretty clear.
The scientist mode is where you want to be. It's choosing doubt over certainty.
Humility over pride, and curiosity over the comfort of closure. It's about searching for reasons you might be wrong, not just reasons you must be right.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? The big takeaway is that thinking like a scientist isn't just for scientists. It's a mindset.
It's about detaching your opinions from your identity. Define yourself by your curiosity, not by your beliefs.
And start running little experiments in your own life. You'll find new solutions, and hopefully you'll live with fewer regrets.
It's about making unlearning an active daily habit.
So to leave you with a final thought to chew on, What's one idea in your professional or personal life, a work strategy, a health routine, maybe even a political belief that you are currently seizing and freezing?
And what small experiment could you run this week just to test if that idea is still the best one?
A great question to end on.
We will meet again in another deep dive with another book. Take care and see you next time.